Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India. Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. Welcome to the 6th session of the course Yoga and Positive Psychology for Managing Career and Life. We are looking at yoga from the lens of positive psychology for last couple of sessions, and if we have a quick recap, we looked at different aspects of positivity and human potential from the yogic tradition. So, we looked at holistic life goals, diverse pathways, positive behavior, positive characteristics, positive experience, positive events, positive institutions and positive society. We in the last class had a discussion about sanskar and sanskar as interventions or positive events for the self expression, for cultural and social integration. These are the events which has very clear moral purpose and also a spiritual purpose behind these. So, 16 sanskars are more popular currently, but there can be different numbers found in the different texts, and we had this discussion about it. We also looked at yajna as a positive event. We looked at Panch Mahabhut, Panch Rin, and how yajna is essentially an activity, an engagement to sacrifice or to do something beyond the immediate limited self. So, sacrifice is inevitable part of the any yajna. We looked at positive institutions as well in the last class, and in the positive institution we specifically looked at marriage and pathashala. Marriage is known as grahasthashram in the Indian tradition, and we looked at a couple of sutras given in the traditional text. One of them, if we can recall, was yatha vayu samashritya vartante sarva jantavah tatha grahastham ashritya vartante sarva ashrama. As air sustains all beings, so grahasthashram, a married life, takes care of all other forms of human lives or all other ashram, brahmacharya ashram, vanaprastha ashram and sannyas ashram. So, there is a clear role of married couples, and there is a great role of marriage in the sustenance of the society as it is conceived in the yogic tradition. We also looked at pathshala as positive institution, and the importance of pathshala, importance of education, importance of jnana is uncontestable in the yogic tradition. They say that vityam bandhurvaya karma vidya bhavati panchami etani manyasthanani gariyo yadatyuttaram. That means vidya is the first matter of honor. Vidya must be honored first before vitta, meaning prosperity, relationship, action, etc. So, that tells about the importance of Vidya, and as a result of that there were many great institutions flourished in the Indian culture. We all know about it and we discussed these things in the last class. Today we are going to look at very important aspect of a positive society. We cannot understand positive society, particularly in the yogic tradition, without understanding relationship of yoga and governance. If we look at the artifacts found, discovered in the Harappa culture, we see some of the seals, some of the artifacts which are suggesting about the widely prevalent yogic practice in that culture. That is the claim, and the elaboration of that claim in a fairly scientific manner is done by Deepika Kothari ji and Omji Ramji in their film History of Yoga. The link of that is given in this slide. Precisely, we can look at three things. This seal is found, and this particular picture is found in various artifacts in the Harappa tradition. This artifact is suggesting a posture. It is depicting a posture which is very similar to Bhadrasana, and we can check Bhadrasana is one of the most ancient asanas in the yogic tradition. Next artifact is of the priest, as they say this is the artifact of the priest or one man. If we look at the circle which is prominently reflecting the center point between the eyebrows, if we look at the half closed eyes and calmness on the face of this man, this depicts the Shambhavi mudra, which is very popular mudra, very well known mudra in the yogic tradition. In fact, another picture of Sri Sadguru Jaggi Vasudev teaches Shambhavi mudra extensively, and in his program of inner engineering, this mudra is being taught to millions of people. The terracotta figurines found in different parts, they also depict different yogic postures. So, there is a connection made between the yogic postures and the overall nature of the culture. We can see that this culture, which we call Indus Valley culture, sustained and flourished in wide stretches from the north of the current India to western part of current India. We do not find any evidence of mass violence in that culture. So, it reflects the great orderly life and a democratic governance prevalent in that culture. You can know more detail about this and more elaboration in this film, but culture was in true sense a culture because it reflects very orderly town planning. We do not see much of difference in the living spaces of the different sections of society. We do not see any indication of the mass violence. We do not find many arsenals in this search. So, that suggests that this society was orderly society, it was cultured in true sense, and yoga perhaps was the foundation of that society. So, these things suggest that yoga must be looked at from the perspective of governance as well, and no surprise that Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Aparigraha, Brahmacharya, all these characteristics, positive features of human life and human potential are the basis of yoga, and probably these were also considered as morals and basis of the ancient culture of Indus Valley tradition, and this was certainly the foundation of the governance system of that culture. The depiction, or you can say the vision of the positive governance is found in the Shanti Parv of Mahabharata. So the shloka goes like this: Naiva Rajyam na Rajasid, na Dando na cha Dandika, Dharmenaiva Praja Sarva Rakshanti cha Parasparam. There was no sovereignty, no king, no chastisement, no chastisizer. All men used to protect one another righteously by dharma. So, this is the vision of positive governance. There was no need of punishment, there was no need of instrument for punishment, that is what Dandika is. People were protecting themselves, praja, the jana, the population was protecting themselves in the context of, with the help of, with the reference of what? With the reference of dharma. Dharma is righteous behavior arising from the experience and knowledge of harmony within oneself and harmony with oneself and social and natural surrounding or environment. So, this is the answer of the question of Yudhishthir, which he asked to Bhishma, how this system of king and kingship came into being. So, this is the positive vision of the positive governance prevalent in the Indian tradition. Yoga is certainly the foundation of this vision. Similar thoughts are elaborated in much greater detail in the Arthashastra, Arthashastra of Kautilya or Chanakya. Arthashastra is perhaps the most ancient text about governance, about socio-economic, about the economic system, and this was written by Acharya Vishnugupta or Chanakya or Kautilya. He was the mentor of Chandragupta Maurya, who started the Gupta dynasty, which is considered to be the golden period of human history. So, Arthashastra says that Sukhasya Moolam Dharma, Dharmasya Moolam Artha, Arthasya Moolam Rajyam, Rajyasya Moolam Indriya Jaya, Indriya Jayasya Mool Vinaya, Vinayasya Moolam Vradhopaseva, Vradhopasevaya Vijnanam, Vijnanam Atmanam Sampadayet, Sampaditam Jitatmam Bhavati, Jitatma Sarvarthe Sanyujyate. The basis of sukha or all true pleasantness is dharma or righteous conduct. That is the meaning of sukhasya moolam dharma. Dharmasya moolam artha. The basis of dharma is artha or wealth. We discussed about the meaning of arth, the power of transaction, the physical possessions, all that comes into artha. Arthasya moolam rajyam. The basis of the wealth creation, basis of artha is rajya, state. If state is weak, wealth creation will also suffer. The basis of the stability of state lies in control over indriyas or sense faculties providing pleasure, and that is what it says, Rajyasya moolam indriya jaya. State where the rulers and subjects do not have control on their senses. If they let their sense pleasure and urge to enjoy sense pleasure, if they let loose this without conscious understanding of the harmony within and harmony around, then the state will not remain stable. Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinaya, and how that self control can come. The self control can come through humility. Humility meaning understanding the limitation of my knowledge and understanding limitation of my capability. Until I understand that I have limited knowledge, I will not strive to know more. I will not get into self reflection. I will not get into the self introspection. So, the basis of control of senses, the sense faculties is humility. And from where humility comes? The humility comes Vinayasya Moolam Vradhopaseva. the basis of humility is devotion, though devotion to whom? Devotion to the grown old through wisdom. Vradha, in the yogic tradition, Vradha are considered of three types. Vayovradha means those who are Vradha or old by age, Jnana Vradha, those who are old by knowledge, and Tapovradha, those who are old because of their penance, their sacrifice, their rigor in pursuance of the dharmic objective, the pursuance of the true knowledge. So, we attain humility by taking care and respecting Vradhopaseva, those who are old, because if we take care of the old, those Vradha, those grown-ups can pass on their experience, their wisdom, their knowledge to the younger generation. So, that is the basis of humility. And when we receive knowledge, we realize the limitation of our own knowledge, and that makes us humble, that makes us aware that how much is there which we do not know, and that brings a sense of openness to know, examine not only external world but also examine internal world, our intrinsic tendencies. Vradhopasevaya vijnanam, that is the important thing. When we respect experience and knowledge, vijnan, the true knowledge emerges. If we do not respect experience, if we do not respect knowledge, vijnan, the scientific knowledge cannot be discovered. Through the devotion to the wise, one attains knowledge. And what happens when we attain knowledge? More the knowledge is existing in a society, better the state will function. So, knowledge based society and knowledge based governance is the foundation of the basic tenet of the governance in the yogic tradition. Yoga also talks about controlling of the senses, yoga also talks about Jnana, and this most popular sutra, the most popular hymn of the Arthashastra also talks about dharma, the harmony, self-control, knowledge, and it connects beautifully how knowledge is important in terms of creation and dissemination to run a state effectively. And to perform state duties with maximum efficiencies, the functionaries of the state must learn to control their sensuous need, maximize their internal potential, respect knowledge, and those who have vanquished their baser selves, the limited self which considers my existence limited to my physical body. And when with this whole process, jitatmam bhava, when this process people get the control over their sensuous pleasure, they become prosperous naturally, and then only they can retain their prosperity. And if they can retain the prosperity, then only a state can be successful and individual can be successful. So, you can see in this shloka, self control, governance and generation of wealth, all three aspects are interlinked. If we summarize these thoughts in different way, we can look at this representation. This Vartul representation or Mandala representation is that can be useful to understand the notion of the positive governance, and that notion of positive governance connect the notion of positive society. Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha, personal and universal order, consumption, wealth creation and liberation. These are the four human objectives. Nothing being none of the four being more or less important. So, that is the governing principle. The elements of the society, the constituents of society are Vyakti, the individual, family, community, society, Rashtra and Vishwa. These represent the integral humanism perspective. These represents how one results into the next, which results into the next. So, Vyakti and society are not two separate entities, certainly they are not. So, the theories which talk about man versus society kind of conceptualization does not fit into this yogic tradition. Yogic tradition says that Vyakti has to be looked at as the unit of the society. First, it should be looked at as unit of family. The role of family we have already seen. Families constitute community and community in turn constitutes society. So, there is inherent harmony, that is a fractal like arrangement of the different components of the society. So, it is not a micro macro divide which is being looked at in the Indian tradition or yogic tradition. All the component of the society are viewed as fractals. As a separate unit, they have some identity. When they come together, they create another higher level of identity. So, Vyakti, the one which is expressed, it is different from individual. For the individual, the yogic tradition talks about term Vyakti. Vyakti means represented, it is representing the universal consciousness, that is why it is called Vyakti. So, Vyakti constitutes family, which is not only biological unit but also social unit, that constitutes community and community constitutes society. So, there is a integration, there is a progression in the different entities of the society. A society which has common identity, society more importantly not only common identity, common life ideals, that makes Rashtra. Rat is that root term from where Rashtra has originated, that means having a sense of aspiration, a common sense of aspiration, a common ideal, a commonality in what you feel proud about. So, Rashtra is the constitution of the societies and different societies, and Rashtra is not disconnected from the other Rashtra or other societies. Rashtra itself becomes the Vishwa. That is why in the Mundaka Upanishad and on several other places it is said that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. If we look at from this integral perspective in context of the four inevitable, most important, most valuable life goals, then whole world can be naturally looked at as family. The next question is, how should be the relationship between Vyakti or micro unit of society and Samashti, the macro expression of society. So, if we look at individual receives education or competency from the society. That is the first interaction of society and individual. Society educates Vyakti. Naturally, that result into competency. With that competency, Vyakti forms organization. So, all the kind of business organizations you see, governance organizations you see or educational organizations you see are all constituted by Vyaktis or individuals who are made competent by the society. The kind of organization that they constitute is result of their swadharma, their aptitude and lokasangra, their urge to contribute to maintain the worldly order. So, Lokasangraha simply means working to maintain the world order. So, then that is the first line of interaction. In turn, organization has to take complete care of individual, complete care of Vyakti. So, it is not only transaction based interaction. The relationship between organization and Vyakti is not transaction based, because that is not possible as recognized in the Indian tradition. Why it is not possible? It is not possible because the exchange which takes place are inherently incomparable. For example, my teacher gave me education. Even if I have paid some fees to my teachers, that is not the true value of what I have received from those teachers. Farmers give us grain, food. Food does not have definitive value in all the places all the time. So, the another notion of the yogic tradition says that though we have transactions, we cannot fully compensate for what we receive from others. For example, I received education from my teachers. Even if I have paid fees, I know that the value of that fees is what I know, that the value of knowledge we have received from the teacher is much more than the fee I give to them. Or doctor saves life. Now, value of life is not 1000 rupees or 2000 rupees, which is the fees we give to the doctor, but it is much more than that. So, though the transaction is taking place, this transaction cannot, the monetary value we assign to any transaction can be based on market, but it does not and cannot compensate for the service we receive from the various service providers. So, the ultimate objective of organization and society is to take care the life of the service providers in toto. That is called Yogachem. So, organization is not only responsible to give people their salary determined by the marketplace, society is not only responsible to give money which is determined by the market for service being provided by the person. Society and organizations have to create systems and processes to take care of the individual life in toto. That is essentially meaning Yogachem. How that Yogachem can be maintained? Yogachem can be maintained only when Vyakti or individual work for the purpose of yajna, for the purpose of tyag, for the purpose of contributing to the larger system, that is Lokasangraha. So, Lokasangraha or yajna have to be performed by Vyakti, Yogachem has to be performed by organization and society. That is essentially the relationship between micro and macro, Vyakti and Samashti, as conceptualized, as understood, and not only understood, practiced in the Indian tradition or yogic tradition. So, this exchange based relationship is much grander than the transaction based relationship. So, transaction cost theory or agency theories or resource based theory, which are studied in the management and economics, they have some utility, they have some value, but they do not capture the overall integral nature of the association and integral nature of the constitution of society, which is constituted by family and individuals or Vyakti. When we combine these thoughts, we can look at what should be the interactive pattern, and we get the idea about how these principles become the basis of governance. We can start looking at and making sense of this figure from the lowermost circle, concentric circle, which is self. Self as we discussed in the previous session, is constituted by not only physical body, it has mental body, emotional body, Anandamaya Kosh, the bliss body. Self interacts with society through 5 rinas or 5 yajnas. So, what is the basis of interaction of self with society? Are Devarin, Pitrarin, Bhutarin, Narin and Brahmarin. That is the basis on which interaction between Vyakti and society take place. So, the Vyakti do not have contract, Vyakti have a purpose of yajna, interaction of yajna with society, with the collective, what is also called samashti. Business organizations are also made up of the individuals. Here the individuals offer their swadharma, offer their competency, that runs organization. Organization not only are liable to give them salary, organizations have to strive, have to aim at providing yoga chem, complete care of individual, because self or individual is offering their swadharma, their all the competencies. So, that should be the exchange, that should be the ideal exchange between individual and organization. Organization and society has to be governed not based on only artha. Like individual, organizations have also to pursue all 4 objectives, which is dharma, artha, kam and moksha. Organizations cannot remain, organization cannot just focus on kam and artha, wealth creation and sense pleasure. If they only concern about that, then it will not be good for the social environment as well as natural environment. And now we are seeing that and we are also seeing the recognition of the fact, and that is why people, planet and profit, all 3 are considered to be equally important pursuits of business. So, organization have to interact with society through not just by enhancing consumption, but they also have to perform yajna and lokasangraha, and I have already explained what is yajna and what is lokasangraha. So, this is the ideal representation of individual, organization and society interaction in the yogic tradition. This overall interaction is called integral humanism, as explained in the basic text called Daishik Shastra by Duldhariya Badrisha, that was contemporarized and explained in very simple and scientific and logical terms by Deen Dayal Upadhyay in 1965. And combining all these things, there is another work of Pandey A, which talks about how these notions can be understood in the context of management. Now, the question is, these values are fine, are these values practiced in the real life? Answer is yes, and this can be explained with another recent paper by Mohanoth, Pratap and Saha in very reputed journal titled Organization, where they looked at governance of Marwari capital. In the Marwari community, where these scholars studied what are the principles which govern the capitalist system, which govern the business system, which governs the community of the Marwadis, they found that most of the businesses are the partnerships. There is a clear moral control on misreporting in the partnership relations. These are not very different from yam and niyam of yogic tradition. Another important thing, very interesting thing is that 1% partnership money is assigned to DT. That means DT, Ishtadev, they also become one of the partners in the firm. So, if one partner draw money in an illegal way, immoral way, he or she is not only doing harm to the another partner, it is also betraying the deity, the Ishtadev. And suddenly, because of this being a dharmic society, people would not like to betray their Ishtadev. So, this spiritual principle of Ishtadev is very well integrated in the business governance. Now, what do I do with the surplus? I take out money which is justified from the surplus, but I also have to pass on that surplus to my deity. Now, deity is not walking, eating deity, deity is the divine. So, what do you do for them? So, for them you build, you construct temples, you start other service oriented ventures, you start helping people in education, providing food, etc., etc., which is very similar to what we study in the corporate social responsibility. So, here you can see that this is only one example. In India, we can see many examples of several communities where spiritual principles and economic principles are well integrated in their ventures, in their businesses, in their so called worldly activities. Actually, in yogic tradition, we consider body, mind and spirit of equal importance. So, moral, spiritual and physical realms are distinct, but they are not disjointed, and they are the basis for each other. And these principles are not only individual centric principles, there are societies, there are systems, and this paper is only one example of that, those kind of system where these spiritual principles and economic principles are well integrated. So, what are the points of action and reflection? For the action and reflection about today's session, I would like to point out three realms of the reality, three levels of the reality as conceptualized in the yogic tradition. These are Adhibhautik, Adhidaivik and Adhyatmik. Adhibhautik is physical realm. It is experienced from various objects created from 5 great cosmic elements. We discussed those 5 elements. Adhidaivik is the experience arising from supernatural power, larger systemic order. We can consider universe as grand intelligent system. So, we can call it, in the earlier days we used to assign some deities, some supernatural powers like Jal Dev, Varun Dev or Agni Dev, etc., to represent the divine, to represent the Adhidaivik. In the modern language, we can say there is a universal intelligence, there is a larger systemic intelligence which is operating different larger natural systems. So, that is Adhidaivik and Adhyatmik, that is experience within self, that is experience of inner harmony, inner peace, inner calmness. So, if we look at the yogic tradition, positive characteristics like Daivi Sampada, positive events like Yajna, positive institutions like marriage and Pathshala, positive governance as we explained just now, we will see in all these aspects Adhidaivik, Adhyatmik and Adhibhautik are considered in harmony with each other. So, in the Yajna there are physical activities, and those physical activities has coherence with the psychological activities, and those have coherence with the spiritual experience. All these are beautifully explained in the Karya Karan Bhav of the book which is depicted here. There is another book which can be useful to understand these concepts in more contemporary scientific terms. This is the book by Cain Wilber titled Eye to Eye. In Eye to Eye, Cain Wilber says that reality can be looked at through 3 eyes. Which are those 3 eyes? These are eye of flesh, which is these physical eyes, eyes of mind, which is more psychological understanding, deeper cognitive understanding, and eye of spirit, which is spiritual experience and spiritual understanding. While observing something, we should be conscious of the interpretation if it is done by eye of flesh, eye of mind, or eye of spirit. Different phenomena can be explained by these three eyes, and same phenomena can be also explained by these three eyes, but it is important to maintain the distinction so that we do not confuse eye of spirit with eye of mind or eye of flesh. That means we can look at a phenomena from all these adhibhautik, adhidevik and adhyatmic angles, but we should not confuse adhyatmic with adhibhautik and adhidevik and vice versa. We need to have the distinct understanding of these three realms. In the yogic perspective of the positive life, we see that all these events and the positive elements have all these three elements integrated in it, and that is why we say yogic tradition is one of the most integrated and cohesive tradition of the world. This can be realized at cognitive level, at emotional level, at level of action, and at the level of life energies. Arising from these three realms, arising from these realms of the individual experience, we can see major forms of yoga have arrived and major forms of yoga have evolved. So, Bhakti Yoga is related to surrender to embodied form of Supreme that primarily operates at the realm of emotions. Jnana Yoga primarily takes help of intellect. So, for the Jnana Yogi, Shravan, that is listening, Manan, that is understanding, Nididhyasan, that is implementing those things in our behavior, these three things are the basis of the Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga primarily takes help of our action, that is also called conative level in the modern psychology. Karma Yoga primarily operates on the Swadharma and Lokasangraha. So, following Karma Yoga means following Swadharma, Swadharma meaning finding out what is your true calling, and Lokasangraha, that is offering your aptitude, offering your competency for the well-being for all, that is Lokasangraha. And it can also be realized through Raja Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, which is perhaps the most popular form of yoga that has yam, niyam, asana, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So, different aspect of life, which is adhibhautik, adhidevik and adhyatmic, can be integrated and can be experienced in all these four yogas. These four yogas are originated from the different aspects of human self. What are those aspects? Those aspects are emotions, from where Bhakti Yoga operates, cognition, from where Jnana Yoga operates, action, from where Karma Yoga operates, and energy, the experience of energy, at where Raj Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga operates. So, yoga emphasizes different aspects such as finding ultimate reality, individual and societal enhancement, learning how to isolate past, present and future, and that is what we looked at in various positive aspects of yoga in last three sessions. Yoga principles include yam, that is good conduct, niyam, which is about self discipline, asana, which are postures, pranayam, which is mindful breathing and breath regulation, pratyahar, that is detachment from the senses or inner withdrawal, dharana, which is concentrating or mental focus, dhyan, which is meditation or mindful focus on the present, and samadhi, which is the ultimate attainment of the yogic practices. Original balanced condition as being defined in the Professor Kiran Kumar's paper. These concepts have received much attention in positive psychology as well. That is why in this course positive psychology and yoga are intermeshed. Yoga is means to achieve various aspects of positive psychology like flourishing, nourishment of life, happiness, satisfaction, higher level of compassion, empathy, gratitude, respect toward both human and non-human relationship. So, there is an integration, and we are going to examine that and understand that integration more and more in this course. Yoga, being a holistic in nature, offers a comprehensive means to enhance the psychology of well-being by achieving mastery at all levels of human personality. We are going to have extensive assessment. We are anyway going on. Those who have registered for the course must have started receiving the psychometric assessment links. They must have been directed to a website or an app where they must be taking psychometric assessments, and they must also be started, they must have also started getting the interpretation of these scores. This kind of self reflection is very important to progress in this course, not just as a passive listener, but as an active participant in this course. These are some of the references. You can have a look at it, and these are there in the course pack, in the course introduction given on the NPTEL site as well. So, you can read more about it. In the slides also adequate references were mentioned, which those who are interested to know more about those topics can visit and can benefit.